Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to look more into why that 1500 watt inverter didn't work on my 1-year-old refrigerator upstairs. It wouldn't even power it on, and I mean 1500 watts should be plenty of power to get that fridge going. So I want to look into all of the inverters that I have and see which ones can power it and maybe try to figure out why. So let's look at the inverters that I have. Okay, I have 4 different inverters, all wildly different. So let's go ahead and check them out one by one. First, I have this portable inverter right here. This is the 500 watt. This one I think I got for under $50. Right now they're sold out, which is a huge bummer because this thing, it just works. But it's only 500 watts. It's not really made for appliances, so I'm guessing this one isn't going to work. I will be using these clamps also because that's what it came with. The next one is this 1100 watt inverter from Krieger? From Krieger, I guess. It's 1100 watt modified sine wave inverter. So this one might be able to run it, but I'm not sure. Here is the alpha inverter that we know didn't run it, but I would like to go ahead and try it again anyway, just to make sure it wasn't something on my end. And then last but not least, there is this 2000 watt inverter. It's actually an inverter charger. I think it has a 6000 watt surge. This thing's a beast. It's over 50 pounds. It's not made to be portable like these guys. These ones are kind of made to be a little portable. This one's super portable. This is one you can carry around. You're supposed to put it in your car. These ones you can screw down, but you can kind of carry them. You can put them on boards and move them from place to place. This guy is meant to go on a big bank. I want to say the standby consumption on this is way bigger than any of these, but we're going to go ahead and try it out anyway, and we're also going to see what the standby consumption is. We're going to use our meter over there, and we're going to go ahead and put in we're going to plug in a kilowatt to it to see what that reads as well. So we're going to kind of compare all of these, and we're going to plug all 4 of them onto that refrigerator, just to see what happens. Because as you all well know, all inverters are not created equal. So let's go ahead and go upstairs and go ahead and start testing with this little 500 watt one. All right, to do all these tests, we're going to be using this 12 volt, 100 amp hour lithium iron phosphate battery from Uniwix. It is fully charged, so that will not be an issue. Okay, and also to kind of give you an idea of what the refrigerator should look like, is when you open it up, all the lights should be on nice and bright, and there should be readings on the side that show the temperature of the refrigerator and the freezer. Oh yeah, and I also need to change my filter. Remind me of that later. So first we're going to go ahead and try out that 500 watt inverter. I really don't think it's going to work, but let's go ahead and try it anyway. All right, then we're going to put this kilowatt on here, see what it says. All right, and the kilowatt reads 116.5 volts. Hertz is 60. All right, so let's go ahead and plug it in. Here goes nothing. All right, yeah, and instantly the inverter just turned off. And I'm not really too surprised by that because this refrigerator probably needed way more power than what this little inverter could actually handle. So you can see it's just turned off. Actually, I just started this inverter back up and it is running it. Check this out. Look at that. Huh. So this little 500 watt inverter, it ran it. I think I accidentally pressed the button on the side right there when I was plugging it in. So this inverter is running this refrigerator. So why didn't that why didn't that 1500 watt one run it? And the kilowatts reading 115 volts, 116 volts, you know, at 1 amp. So it's pushing like 100, it's pushing 126 watts right now. So it is fully running this refrigerator. That is very interesting. All right, well, let's go on to the second inverter. Okay, our second inverter is all wired up and plugged in. Let's go ahead and turn it on. Okay. All right, this inverter is reading 117 volts and also 60 hertz. Okay, let's go ahead and plug it in. Okay, remember that this inverter is a modified sine wave, and as soon as I plugged it in, I could hear a difference in the sound of the refrigerator. There's a low hum coming from the sound, and I believe that's what modified sine wave, that's what modified sine wave inverters do. They're not so clean, so they will make a hum on your devices. But let's see, it's actually running it. You can see that it's on, nice and bright. And that's the 1100 watt. I'm really starting to wonder if this 1500 watt that I have is going to power this refrigerator and make me look like a big dumb idiot. So let's go ahead and wire up the 1500 watt inverter that didn't work before and see if it works. All right, next is our Alpha 1500 watt pure sine wave inverter. This one, for some reason, did not run this refrigerator last time. So let's go ahead and try it out again. Yeah, and this is only reading 108 volts. I really think that's why it would not run this refrigerator, because it could not push enough voltage to start it up. And the bummer part is the way that this inverter is made, it has this little ledge right here. So I can't plug in, I can only plug in this kilowatt so far, you know, at angles like that. And I don't want to do that while actually plugging in my, $2,000 refrigerator. So I'm going to leave this off, and we're just going to see if this thing can actually run this refrigerator. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and plug it in now. Yeah, and the voltage reading on the side of this now reads 99 volts. Actually 98 volts. I heard the refrigerator kick on. Oh, and look at that. It's on. I don't understand this. I can't believe this refrigerator is actually running. Man, I wish I knew why this thing wouldn't start up this refrigerator the first time. But let's go ahead and plug in this Big Daddy inverter. Make sure that it will power it, which if it doesn't, I will be absolutely more confused. But let's go ahead and do that one. And then after that, we're going to go ahead and go back down into the basement, and we are going to test all of the standby consumptions of all of these inverters to see what the differences are in that. All right, the Big Daddy inverter is now all wired up and ready to go. I've never heard of this brand before, but it says it's from HCS, which is High Caliber Systems. I don't know if that's the company that makes it or if that is the place that it was bought from, but I want to say it's kind of like an Ames inverter. I'm not positive though. But let's go ahead and power it on. We're going to go ahead and put it on power saver off. Our kilowatt shows 120, between 120 and 121 volts. So yeah, this thing is the real deal. It's pure sine wave. I want to say it costs like $800 to $900. So this thing is going to run this refrigerator with no problem. Let's go ahead and plug it in. Yeah, voltage still reads 120. Let's go ahead and check the refrigerator. But yeah, it's on. It's nice and it's getting warmer in there. It's actually up to 48 degrees because I just keep opening the door. So yeah, I am not surprised that this inverter runs this refrigerator. If it wouldn't have, I would have been absolutely shocked. So let's go ahead and take all these inverters back downstairs and check all the standby consumptions and see what those differences are. All right, well, that refrigerator test was kind of a bust because they all ran that refrigerator just fine. But what I want to learn next is, first of all, what the standby consumption is on all of these. And also I want to know if we use the same load on each one of them, what the efficiency is. Because I think we're going to find out that the bigger the inverter, the less efficient it's going to be. That's my understanding. But I really want to see what the numbers are going to be. So let's do that now. First, we're going to start with, again, the little 500 watt inverter. Okay, first we're going to test the standby consumption of the 500 watt inverter. Okay, the inverter is on. All right, the amp draw is 0.23 amps. Let's just say that, the highest number, 0.23 amps. And the voltage is 13.28. All right, and for this test, I was going to use a big halogen lamp, but I wanted to use something that someone would probably use more often. And that is, this is a 100 watt incandescent light bulb. So let's go ahead and plug this in, see what our efficiency is. Okay, and for this test, I'm going to be using this power bar because I know we have an issue with the alpha being able to plug into the kilowatt. So we're going to use this power bar too. That way everything stays the same. Okay, plugging in our kilowatt. Plug in the power bar to the inverter. All right, let's go and start it up. This inverter on the AC side is using 91, let's just say 91 watts. That sound good? 91 watts. And let's see how much is pulling from the DC side by taking the amps and the volts. I don't know if you can see that, but the amps are 7.68. Let's say 7.68. The voltage is 13.13. Okay, that one's done. Let's go ahead and plug in the 1100 watt inverter. All right, now we're going to go ahead and try out this 1100 watt modified sine wave inverter. First, we'll check the idle consumption, and then we'll go ahead and power up that 100 watt light bulb and see what kind of efficiency we get. And it looks like the idle consumption is around 0.3 amps, 13.27. Let's go ahead and put a 100 watt load on it and see what the efficiency is. Our wattage is 91, oh wait, let's go ahead and say 91 watts. All right, the volts of the battery are 13.18. Okay, so let's go ahead and plug in the 1500 watt inverter. First, let's check the standby consumption. The standby consumption is 1.45 amps for a 1500 watt inverter. 1.44, but we'll just say let's say 1.44. Voltage of the battery is, we'll say 13.26. Let's go ahead and put a 100 watt load on there and see what the efficiency is. The AC side is 70.5 watts. The voltage of the battery is 13.2. The amp draw is 7.2. All right, so that inverter is actually, the numbers are a lot different than what I thought they would be. But let's go ahead and check out this Big Daddy, and then I'll post everything on the screen so you can see the efficiencies and the differences between all the inverters. Okay, we now have this Big Daddy 2000 watt pure sine wave inverter charger wired up, and we're going to check the efficiency and the standby consumption. It does have two different modes, but I'm going to put the power saver to off. So it's going to be using pretty much the most standby consumption that it can. Since it's an inverter charger, it's probably going to be not very efficient when it comes to standby consumption. But we'll go ahead and test it and see what our numbers are. And it is using 5.65 5.06. So we'll say 5.06 amps. And the voltage of the battery is 13.22. That gives us a standby consumption of 66 watts. So this thing is using 66 watts just to sit here doing nothing. Let's go ahead and put a 100-watt light on it and see what kind of numbers we get. On the AC side is switching between 94.5 and, so it must be trying to even out. There we go. We'll say 95 watts. Voltage of our battery is 13.12. The amp draw is 12.55. Now that I've tested all those inverters, let's go ahead and see what all the results are. Okay, everyone, let's look at the numbers that we got from those 4 inverters. Let's go ahead and look at the standby wattages and the percentages first. You can see I have them listed right here. Here is the 500 watt little $45 inverter. Then there's the 1100 watt modified sine wave inverter from Krieger. Then there's the 1500 watt inverter from ALFFAA. And then there's the big 2000 watt inverter charger from the bullet time inverter. I can't remember what the name of it is. But you can see that the standby wattages are vastly different. With that little 500 watt inverter, you would expect it to have a very low standby wattage consumption. 3 watts. So that gives it a 99.39 efficiency on standby. But look down, I mean, and they get worse. As they get bigger, they're gonna get worse. That's to be expected. But look at the difference between the 1100 watt and the 1500 watt. The 1100 watt it only has a standby consumption of 3.9 watts, when the 1500 watt inverter has a standby consumption of 19 watts. Now, I don't know why there's such a difference there. It might be because the 1500 watt is pure sine wave and the 1100 watt is modified sine wave. Or it could be that the 1500 watt inverter is just less efficient. It does say in the documentation of that 1500 watt inverter that it is around 98% efficient. So that's what it shows, is 98% efficiency on standby. And then the 2000 watt inverter, I mean, I expected the standby to be enormous. 66, almost 67 watts of standby consumption for that 2000 watt inverter. And it is because it's, a 2000 watt inverter that's also a charger. I mean, it could be a low frequency inverter also. I don't know. The documentation really didn't say anything about it. But that gives you a 96.66 efficiency on standby. Let's go ahead and look at the efficiencies when using a 100 watt light bulb. Here is the efficiencies when using a 100 watt light bulb. With that 500 watt inverter, you're looking at a 90.24% efficiency. Now, that is measuring the 91 watts that were coming out of the AC side of the inverter, and then that's also figuring the amps and the volts on the DC side. And when you multiply those together, you get your DC wattages. So we got 91 coming out, and we're using 100. So we're getting about a 90.24% efficiency. The 1100 watt inverter, again, we got 91 watts coming out of the AC side. But when you multiply the amps and the volts, we were actually using 111 watts. So the efficiency is 81%. Now you can see that there's a 9% drop just because of the size of the inverter. Now when you go to your 1500 watt inverter, we're only getting 70.5 watts coming out of the AC side. That is really low. And then when you multiply the amps and the volts, we're getting 95 watts out of the DC side. So that efficiency is only 74.18 So, that's a 7% drop from the 11 to the 15. So you can already see that using a 500 watt inverter for a 100 watt light bulb is a really good idea. What's not a good idea is using a 2000 watt inverter charger to power a 100 watt light bulb. Now we got 95 watts coming out of the AC side, which is good because that was a 100 watt light bulb, so it's giving it a lot of power. But look how many watts we were using on the DC side. 164.66 watts. So we were getting 57% efficiency from what we were using on our battery to what we were actually getting out to power that light bulb. This really goes to show, the point I really wanted to prove here is you really need to size what your total load is going to be when you're purchasing your inverter. Do not buy a 3000 watt inverter if you're only going to be powering a couple of light bulbs, charging your phone, the small things, because your efficiencies are going to be in the toilet. If you're just going to be powering light bulbs, if you're just going to be charging your phone, get the smallest inverter possible. If you're going to be powering refrigerators, if you're going to be powering, electric heaters or multiple appliances, yes, do get a larger inverter. That's why you need to size the total load of all of your uses, all of your appliances, all your lights. You need to add up everything to find out what your total load is going to be. So with all that being said, thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this video, please hit that like button. If you have any questions about how I did all these tests, or if you think I did any of them wrong, please let me know in the comments. I'd be happy to hear them, and I will respond to as many as I can. If you like my content, please consider subscribing. It really helps out. Thank you so much, and have a great night. Bye-bye.